As a 20-year-old, I started on a journey. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but it was a journey that would bring me here today with you to share my passion for a new approach to an old problem. A problem where we are failing current and future generations. One of lost opportunity, heartbreak, and unfulfilled expectations. A problem that affects each and every one of us in one form or another. One that is literally a matter of life and death. I was starting my senior year at college, contemplating the world after graduation, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. We've all been there. And on top of that was the work and the job of getting to graduation, meeting the requirements, and oh yeah, a little thing called my parents' divorce after 20 years and 5 children together. So yes, I was a little stressed out. Now I found myself jogging around my apartment complex. Now this was no Forrest Gump cross-country marathon. I didn't grow a beard. No, this was a much more modest approach to the stress I was feeling, but one that got me started on my journey. You see, running cleared my head and made me feel good. It helped me cope. After graduation, I began navigating the world as a full-fledged adult. And I found myself increasingly looking to first exercise and then diet to deflect the various issues that life threw at me. Graduate school, marriage, a stillborn son, and then 2 very, thank goodness, very healthy sons. Divorce for reasons largely out of my control. Single parenthood. A second marriage, and then yet a second divorce, again for issues largely beyond my control. And then a career largely in the public fishbowl. All of these factors together increased the stakes. I needed a way to manage the stress and to cope with what life was throwing at me. I needed to build resilience, particularly for those 2 boys who spent the majority of their childhood and their adult life living with me as their single dad. See, healthy behavior became my antidote. It got me through. And on a lot of days, made me feel good and helped me feel good when I really felt bad. Now, as I entered my 50s, and the boys went off to college and lives of their own, my journey took another twist. I found rhythm. You see, healthy behavior became really ingrained in my lifestyle. My days were anchored by morning workouts. I paid attention to my diet. I made sure that I went to see my doctor at least once a year for a checkup. I generally paid attention to my health. And what was even more amazing was that the longer I stuck with the program and the positive behaviors, the better I felt. I had transitioned. What started as a coping mechanism became a passion. As I approached my 60s, yet another stage of the journey. This time, I found myself in the field of healthcare. You see, I was an executive at a $1 billion healthcare organization. And as I settled into my job, I began to consider my own life circumstances and my situation with my health behaviors. And I compared that to other men my age and the American population as a whole. And what I discovered made me pause and ask why. Why is it that men who are 50 and older are perhaps the least likely segment of our population to adopt a healthy lifestyle? Why is it that men have a shorter life expectancy than women? Why is it that men have twice as many heart attacks each year than women? And why is it when it comes to other diseases and the rates of disease, things like stroke, diabetes, or chronic lung disease, that men have those diseases at twice the rates of women? What puzzled me was the fact that men traditionally see themselves as protectors and guardians of the people that we love. and that these same men would neglect such an important part, an important dimension of their life that would allow them to carry out this function, meaning neglecting their health. And what made this even more difficult to swallow is a commonly known fact, but one that I find often overlooked in our discussion of behavior, and that is the factors that are the biggest and most influential on our health. Consider this. We've got a number of things that impact our health, right? Access to health care, the medicine itself, technology, perhaps genetics, our genetic makeup. All these factors influence our health and well-being, but none of those that I just mentioned are number one. What is it that you think has the most influence on our health? Answer? Well, it's our own behavior. Yes, when it comes to our health, we really control our own destiny. And unfortunately, in America, we fail at it and fail miserably. Less than 3% of the American population, men and women, lead a healthy lifestyle. And that certainly spills over into the population of men 50 and over. Now, as we enter, those of us that are 50 and over, enter this, what I call the second half of the game of life, and we contemplate various aspects of our lives, like weddings and graduations, perhaps travel with our spouse, grandchildren, a second or a third career, maybe retirement, volunteer work, whatever the case might be. I would ask you, what do you think we do? Do we recognize the tremendous opportunities that lay ahead for fulfillment and enjoyment with the people we love, and consequently embark on a healthy lifestyle, knowing that that healthy lifestyle will prolong our lives and give us the ability to engage and be receptive of all this great stuff that we've got ahead of ourselves? And even moreover, do we suggest to ourselves that we should be a role model for future generations to stay healthy as long as we can and adopt healthy behaviors? Well, unfortunately, the answer is no. We don't do that. In fact, as we age, we do just the opposite. We become very sedentary, neglect our health, and unfortunately produce the results that I spoke about before. Guardians, protectors, we spend more time worrying about the health of our cars and the professional athletes we follow than our own health. Now, I knew from my own experience that it didn't have to be that way. I refused to accept the failures of our culture when it came to our health. I knew what drove my passion for healthy behavior. I knew what motivated me, and I have realized and I know what the benefits are. And I know there must be other men out there like me. So amongst the 50 million men in this country, in the United States, that are 50 and over, I wanted to find the ones that were healthy and lived a healthy lifestyle and see where they got their motivation. And most importantly, see if there was a connection and whether or not their motivating factors influenced their lifestyle, their healthy behavior. Because see, what I wanted to do was to crack the code of starting and sustaining healthy lifestyle among men over 50. And so began the next phase of my journey, the search for the answers that I sought. There were three components that made up this search. First, I wanted to talk to those people that I thought would have the best perspective on healthy living among men over 50. That would be men over 50 that lead a healthy lifestyle. Not only would they be, in my judgment, an authoritative source, I knew that I needed credibility. I knew that if I wanted to move the behavioral needle amongst that population, then I needed some folks that they could relate to. because this is a tough audience. Men over 50 are a skeptical and tough group, not known for their embracing of new models of behavior and self-help. But I also knew that the messenger is a key component of the acceptance of the message. Marketing experts will tell you that if you want to give yourself the best chance of getting your message across, then have the messenger and have the person delivering the message be someone that your audience can relate to. And so I surveyed 1,000 men between the ages of 50 and into their 70s nationwide, men that had been pre-screened as leading a healthy lifestyle, meaning that they don't smoke, they wear their seatbelt, they exercise several times a week, they eat fruits and vegetables several times a week, and they have a reasonable BMI or body mass index, and that's defined as less than 25. The results and what I learned through this survey and by asking these men questions formed the cornerstone of my new approach to men's health. In margins all exceeding 70%, the men told me that their life's priorities were a huge influence on their behavior, that it had a lot to do with their behavior. They told me that they think about their loved ones and their life priorities at least once a week, and oftentimes more than that. They told me that their priorities and their strategies include spending time with their wives and their loved ones and their partners, as well as using those partnerships to support their healthy lifestyle. They told me that they believe optimism is important to leading a healthy lifestyle. And they told me that the fear of losing their independence was a huge motivating factor, largely because it represented the loss of all those benefits that they saw. And on average, the men that I studied had led a healthy lifestyle for 11 years. No short-timers here. These guys were dedicated to the cause and knew what they were talking about. So in my judgment, the data was strong and the message was clear. Social factors make a difference and make a significant difference when it comes to the sources of motivation for healthy behavior in men over 50. Now, the second thing I did was to learn about how healthy behavior and social motivation works on a day-to-day basis. And so I interviewed 30 men, 30 healthy behaving men, to see how their lives worked day in and day out. Now, these were no mountain climbers or marathon runners. Now, these were regular guys whose primary attribute was that they met the criteria for healthy behavior. And their stories proved that you can, and fortified the point that you could lead a healthy lifestyle after the age of 50. They added meaning and they humanized the data that I had collected in the survey. And they shared with me and they broke down their lives on a day-to-day basis and how it really works. And the common denominator there was alignment, an alignment between their social aspirations and their life's priorities and their behavior. I gave it a name. I called it male cognitive behavioral alignment, because these guys get it. They connect the dots. And not only do they have that alignment and that cognitive relationship between those two factors, but oftentimes what they do is combine the two. They'll conduct activities that advance their social agenda, their social life, but at the same time are healthy activities. Here's what I mean. I spoke to a gentleman named Bob, and Bob explained to me how he got so much enjoyment by swimming in the ocean while he was on vacation with his granddaughter, and how proud he was that he had the strength and the stamina to keep up with her, and all the enjoyment that came out of that experience. I spoke to a man named Carmen. His routine was to go down to the high school track a couple nights a week with his wife after dinner and do a few laps around the track. He enjoyed spending the time with his wife. They both got a good workout, walked off their meal, and enjoyed the time together. Then there was David. David used to run marathons when he was younger, but now has moved down to a 5K race as his specialty. But he really gets enjoyment when he runs those 5K races, as he often does, with his daughter, who is in the military. He gets to spend time with her and works out, and the combination works great. And then there's Jay. Jay is my friend through the interviews that explained to me how he really pays attention and takes pride in his diet. Jay likes to eat salmon. So what Jay regularly does is have salmon dinners with a buddy of his who also follows a healthy dietary regimen and likes to eat salmon as well. Now, while these gentlemen have different stories, there is a common denominator, and that's that cognitive alignment between their social aspirations and their behavior. And as you can see, they have the ability to combine the two, which really increases the prospects of sustaining that lifestyle over a long period of time. As I was engaged in the first two components of the research, for a third element, I studied the work of experts in the field of psychology to see what they had to say about social motivation. Turns out, it's one of the strongest incentives one can have. It supports what the experts call intrinsic motivation, as well as our underlying psychological needs. And the good news is, like me, if you don't naturally embark on a healthy lifestyle or diet and exercise, it can be an acquired taste. Intrinsic motivation can be integrated into your life. Perhaps the most preeminent study of men's health is the Harvard study of adult development. In this work, researchers tracked 724 men for over 75 years. They continued to do that and study their behavior. Now, while this research is not exclusive to men 50 and over, it provides great insight into that segment of the population. Dr. Robert Waldinger, the study's director, summarized the findings of 75 years of research in one simple statement. Good relationships make us happy and healthy. And again, that's consistent with everything we've seen in the literature. So what's the takeaway for those of us 50 and over? Wives, partners, loved ones, what should you tell the man that you love about pursuing a healthy lifestyle? And what is it that forms this new approach to healthy behavior in men that I've been speaking of? In two words, social motivation, or SOMO, which is my shorthand. Take the social pathway to health. Here's what I mean in 3 simple steps. 1, perform your own social inventory. Before you sign up for that health club membership, before you order that exercise equipment, before you start your diet, before you order the running shoes, take stock of what's most important in your life. Really consider your priorities and what's ahead in your future. And for that matter, where do you want to be next week, next month, next year with regard to your spouse or partner, your children, your grandchildren, your career, your retirement, whatever it is? What's the look ahead? And even more importantly, consider what the future holds for the ones that you love. what's on the horizon for them. And then beyond that, consider all the benefits, the rewards and the happiness and the fulfillment that could come from engaging and be around to participate in that. And then I would suggest to you, think about what it would be like if you weren't there for all of it, or if you weren't there for any of it. Take that inventory, and when you're done, reconcile that against where your life is today, where you want to be versus where you are today. And those gaps become your playbook. Second, based on that inventory, put together your platform for healthy behavior. The healthy men have very defined goals, very robust calendars, right? A whole host of activities that give them purpose and meaning in their lives, that give them a reason to get up every day, right? And that purpose and that meaning translates into the motivation for their healthy behavior. Sit down with the ones you love and ask them to help you to put together a plan, your platform. Trust me, if you ask your wife to help you look at ways that you can do more things together, engage in more social events, she'll respond well. I just think that's going to be the case. Third, get into rhythm. Work your strategy. The healthy men use routines, rituals, and habits to stay on course and position themselves so that they can get right back if they fall off course. Rhythm can be fun and can add discipline. Now, I suggest to you, if you use those three strategies, do the inventory, build the platform, and work the strategy, and use those habits, routines, and rituals to stay on course, you'll have a much better chance of living a healthy lifestyle. And then you'll be in a position to order that exercise equipment, take that gym membership, start that diet, and buy those running shoes. That's the prerequisite. I'm optimistic. I don't believe men over 50 are doomed to a sedentary lifestyle. I don't think that we have to fall into the stereotype of neglecting our health as we get older. I think if we leverage those social determinants and those social factors, that we can create a new model. But there's one more thing. As a longtime executive, I know that culture beats strategy every time. And I know that men on an individual basis that are struggling to lead a healthy lifestyle could use a cultural boost. And that, my friends, brings me to the last leg of my journey here today. I believe we're at a tipping point in this country, a tipping point where healthy behavior, certainly among men over 50, but for the entire population, can be the rule and not the exception. And that's because there is a growing recognition that social factors, what some of the experts call social determinants, are now being recognized for the value that they bring. My passion is to create a new culture of health, a counterculture to what we have today. As baby boomers, we've changed the culture of this country as we've grown up. It's time we took those same approaches in this latter stages of our lives. I've seen it done in other areas of our lives. We've changed the behavior of people with regard to smoking and reduced smoking rates. Seatbelt use was something when we were children was not even considered. And something as fundamental as recycling at one time was considered something that we could never change people's behavior about. Separating glass and bottles and cans and newspapers, are you kidding me? Now we don't think twice about it. If we put our minds to it, we can change the culture in this country. And why not do it for something that's so important and so personal, our own health and well-being, and the health and well-being of not only our generation to enjoy the benefits of our grandchildren and those we love, but how about future generations? I want to show future generations of young men growing up now that their quality of life can be sustained if they put their mind to it, if they connect the dots between their social aspirations and their behavior, that there's fire and inspiration and passion there if we can leverage it and help them connect the dots. What could be more important? It's literally a matter of life and death. Thank you.